Most people will close this video in the next 30 seconds. Not because it's boring, because it's going to say something true about their life. And the brain, your brain, is already preparing its defenses. It's already reaching for the scroll, it's already generating reasons this doesn't apply to you, that you're different, that you're fine. You're not fine. And some part of you already knows that, which is exactly why the finger is hovering. Stay. Just for a minute. Because nobody is going to say this to your face. Not your parents, not your therapist, not your friends who are just as lost as you but performing slightly better. Not the self-help industry that makes $5 trillion a year selling you the idea that the right habit stack will fix what is actually unfixable. So let me say it. You are the only animal on this planet that knows it's going to die. The only one. Every other creature just lives, eats, moves, sleeps, dies, without ever once lying awake at 3 a.m. understanding that it's temporary, without ever standing at a funeral thinking, that's me eventually, without ever feeling the specific, particular horror of knowing that every single person you love is going to rot in the ground and there is nothing, no amount of money, no amount of prayer, no amount of green smoothies or meditation apps that changes that outcome. You carry that knowledge every single day. You have since you were a child and someone explained death to you and you went quiet in a way that scared the adults in the room. And the world's solution, civilization's entire solution, has been to build enough noise that you can't hear it. The job, the mortgage, the 5-year plan, the content, the scrolling, the busyness, all of it at the deepest level is the same thing. Something to look at so you don't have to look at that. And it's working. Until it isn't. Until 3 a.m. Until the diagnosis. Until the person you thought would always be there isn't. And then the noise falls away and you're left standing in front of the thing you've been running from your whole life. This video is about that thing. Not to fix it, not to reframe it, not to give you 5 steps toward a more meaningful existence. Just to look at it together, directly, without flinching. Because you've been flinching your entire life and it hasn't made it smaller. It's just made you more tired. Here's the deal. You wake up tomorrow, the alarm goes off, and the first feeling, before gratitude, before plans, before anything, is something close to dread. Quiet, shapeless, not dramatic enough to name, not bad enough to justify doing something about, just there. A weather system that never fully clears. You get up anyway, you shower, you perform the commute, you sit in traffic or packed between strangers on a train, and everyone has phones out and eyes down, and there's this mutual agreement, unspoken, total, to not acknowledge what's actually happening, which is that a group of human beings are traveling from one box to another box to spend the best hours of their day doing things that mostly don't matter for people who mostly don't care about them, in exchange for money that disappears before the next paycheck so they can come home too tired to do anything they actually want to do. And you sit in a meeting. Someone says synergy or deliverables or circle back, words that sound like they mean something but dissolve the moment you look directly at them. And you nod, you're present in body, but some part of your mind has floated to the ceiling and is looking down at the conference table, the slides, the serious faces, the sheer unreality of the whole scene, and thinking one quiet, terrifying thing. Is this genuinely what a human life is supposed to look like? You don't say it. You've learned. Saying it makes you the problem instead of the thing you're pointing at. So you swallow it back down, adjust your face, type the follow-up email. You come home exhausted in a way sleep doesn't fix. Not muscle tired, somewhere deeper tired, the kind that settles in your 20s and never quite leaves. You scroll other people's highlight reels feeling something you don't have one word for, inadequacy and longing and something like grief, all at once, silently in a room by yourself. You watch something you don't really care about, not because it's good, because silence is worse. Because silence means being alone with yourself, and being alone with yourself means hearing the question you've been outrunning since morning. Is this it? Is this actually it? Then you sleep. The alarm goes off. That question isn't your malfunction. It isn't ingratitude. It isn't a disorder to diagnose, or a phase to grow through, or a thought to reframe with better self-talk. That question is the most honest thing about you, and the world has spent your entire life treating it like a symptom. Here is a thing about your brain that they didn't teach you in school, probably because if they had, you would have asked questions they didn't want to answer. Your dopamine system, the reward circuitry, the thing that makes things feel good, does not reward you for having. It rewards you for wanting. The anticipation phase lights up the brain harder than the arrival phase. Every time, without exception, you feel more alive chasing the thing than having it. Which means the moment you get what you wanted, you are chemically, biologically, measurably less engaged with life than you were the moment before. Think about that. Really think about it. The wedding is less alive than the engagement. The job is less electric than the offer. The relationship 6 months in is quieter than the relationship at 3 weeks. The apartment after you've lived in it for a year is just where you live. The body you worked 2 years to build is just your body now, and already you're thinking about what needs improving. You spent years building towards something. You arrived. The dopamine dropped, and instead of recognizing the trap, you found the next thing to want and called it growth. Schopenhauer called this the will, a blind, irrational, biological drive underneath all conscious thought. Not willpower, not determination, a force, impersonal, relentless, completely indifferent to whether you're happy. It wants because wanting is what it does. It doesn't have an end game. It has no destination where it stops and says, okay, we're here now, you can rest. There is no rest. That's the design. Between wanting and having, there's a brief period that feels like living. Then you have the thing. Then there's boredom. And boredom isn't just restlessness. It isn't just having nothing to do. Boredom is the silence that falls when there's nothing left to want. And in that silence, you hear something underneath everything you've built. The emptiness that was always there, waiting. So you find the next thing, fast. A new relationship, a new goal, a better apartment, a different career, more money, a different body, a different city, the fantasy of a different life, the life you would have if only this thing or that thing or the other thing were different. The fantasy is the product. You are the consumer, and you will consume it your entire life and die still wanting something, still convinced that the next version of things would have been the one that finally felt like enough. Schopenhauer's most devastating line wasn't philosophy, it was observation. We can have what we want, but we cannot want what we want. The wanting happens to you. You don't choose it. You didn't choose to want the things you want, the approval, the status, the love, the body, the life that looks right. Those wants were installed by advertising, by childhood, by comparison, by the specific culture you were dropped into without consent. You are chasing things you were programmed to want on a wheel you didn't choose to be on, and the wheel never stops, and you call this ambition. Cioran wrote with the kind of honesty that makes comfortable people angry. He said, "The fact that I exist proves the world has no meaning. Not the universe is mysterious, not existence is complex. The world has no meaning." Stated, direct. He was born in Romania in a century that gave him 2 world wars, fascism, communism, the slow collapse of everything people had built meaning on top of. He sat inside that collapse and wrote about it with a precision that makes most philosophy feel like a comforting bedtime story. Here is his central observation, the one no one wants to hang on the wall of a hospital delivery room. You didn't choose to be here. You were summoned without consent into a body you didn't select, in a time you had no vote on, by people who may or may not have been equipped to receive you, into a world that was already in progress and already broken before you arrived. You were handed consciousness, which sounds like a gift, until you understand what consciousness actually is. Consciousness is the ability to know that you are going to die, that everyone you love is going to die, that everything you build will eventually be rubble, that the sun will one day expand and swallow this planet and every trace of every human who ever lived, every piece of art and architecture and literature and love letter will dissolve into plasma. Every other animal just lives. The dog doesn't lie awake contemplating its own mortality. The bird doesn't feel existential dread on a Tuesday morning for no specific reason. Only humans carry the full weight of knowing. Only humans have to get up every day and function inside that knowledge. And our solution, the entire history of human civilization, has been to build things tall enough to look away from the drop. Religion says there's an afterlife, so death isn't death, it's a door. Philosophy says there's meaning to be found, so suffering isn't meaningless, it's instructive. Progress says we're building towards something, so the present moment is just a stepping stone to a better future that justifies all this. Culture says your legacy matters, so you won't truly disappear if you do something worth remembering. Every single one of these is a structure built to make the drop survivable. Cioran didn't climb any of them. He stood at the bottom and reported what he saw. And what he saw was this: birth is the first wound. Not life's circumstances, not your particular trauma, not the things that went wrong. The wound is that you're here at all, that you were given consciousness before you could consent to its terms. He wasn't telling you to die. He was telling you to stop pretending the wound isn't there. Stop plastering over it with productivity and positivity and the performance of a person who has it together. The wound is real. The weight is real. And the people who refuse to acknowledge it are not stronger than you. They're just further from themselves. Krishnamurti was supposed to be a messiah. A theosophical organization spent years grooming him for the role: world teacher, spiritual savior, the next great leader. He was 26 when he walked away from all of it, dissolved the organization, gave back the estate they'd given him, stood up in front of the people who had built their lives around the idea of him and said, "I am not your teacher. You don't need a teacher. Teachers are the problem." And then he said the thing that made him genuinely dangerous to every institution that has ever existed. It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Let that sit. Because the entire logic of modern life is adjustment. You feel wrong, adjust. You can't cope, here are tools for coping better. You're anxious, depressed, burned out, empty inside a life that has everything it was supposed to have. We have diagnoses for that. We have medications. We have therapists who will help you function inside the situation rather than question the situation. We have apps, we have retreats, we have a wellness industry worth $5 trillion built entirely on helping you adjust to something you should be rejecting. The machine doesn't ask whether the anxiety makes sense, whether the depression is accurate, a correct emotional response to a genuinely depressing situation, whether the burnout is what happens when you extract maximum output from a human body for years with minimal recovery and call it a career. School trained you to sit still for hours doing things you didn't care about because someone with authority said so. That is not education, that is domestication. You were domesticated. Your natural instincts to move, to question, to refuse, to be curious on your own terms were systematically inconvenient. So they were managed, graded away, disciplined into compliance. And then you grew up and found a job and discovered that the job was just school with money. Same rules, same performance, same system of reward and punishment. Keep your head down, hit your targets, don't make it weird. The adult who questions the structure is dangerous. The adult who adjusts is useful. And what does the useful adult get? 2 weeks of vacation. A health plan with a deductible they can't afford, the right to spend money on things they don't need in exchange for hours of their finite life they'll never get back, the vague promise of a retirement that recedes a few years into the future every decade, glittering just out of reach like a mirage you keep driving toward but never arrive at. And the cruelest part, the part that reveals exactly how complete the conditioning is that when you feel the wrongness of all this, your first instinct is not to question the structure, it's to question yourself. Why can't I just be happy with what I have? What's wrong with me? I should be grateful. I'm ungrateful. That's the problem. The system taught you to do that, to take its dysfunction and turn it inward, to consume your own rebellion before it becomes inconvenient, to manage yourself so it doesn't have to manage you. A person who is genuinely woken up, who sees the wheel, sees the conditioning, sees the machine for what it is the most dangerous thing the system can produce. Because you can't sell things to someone who doesn't want things. You can't manage someone who doesn't want to be managed. You can't extract productivity from someone who has decided that their time is worth more than what you're paying for it. Krishnamurti's entire life was one long argument that freedom is not something the system gives you, it's something you take by refusing to need its permission. There's a reason you can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without reaching for your phone. It's not boredom, it's not habit, it's not that the content is just too compelling, it's that silence means being alone with yourself, And being alone with yourself means proximity to the thing you've been managing distance from your entire life. The fact that you're going to die, that this, all of this, ends. Becker proved something that took the academic establishment decades to accept. The terror of death is not one fear among many. It is the master fear, the organizing principle of human psychology, the thing underneath everything. Your career is not just a career. It is proof that you matter, that you've left a mark, that you won't be forgotten the moment you stop producing. Every ambitious person chasing significance is at some level trying to build something that outlasts them, something that says, I was here after they're no longer here. Your relationships are not just relationships, they are warmth against the void, evidence that your existence registered in someone else's life. The deepest terror of death is not the pain of it, it's the isolation, the idea of disappearing unnoticed into a world that continues exactly as before. Your phone is not just a phone, it is a machine for never being alone with yourself. Every notification is a small proof that you exist, that someone thought of you, that you matter to the algorithm, even if the algorithm is not capable of mattering back. 6 hours a day, on average, 6 hours a day of not sitting with yourself. When death comes close, not conceptually, but actually, when someone you love is dying, or when you get the scan result, or when the car almost didn't stop in time, the distractions fall away. The career stops mattering. The status stops mattering. The opinion of people who aren't in the room stops mattering. And what's left is so simple it's almost embarrassing. The person in front of you. This moment. The fact that you're here. That clarity is real. It's the most real thing most people ever feel. And then the moment passes, and the world works very hard with extraordinary efficiency to make you forget it. Back to the emails, back to the content, back to the wheel. Because a person walking around with death clarity is inconvenient. They don't buy things they don't need. They don't chase things that don't matter. They ask questions that have no profitable answers. They become, in the language of economics, inefficient. The denial of death is not a psychological quirk. It is a feature of a system that requires you not to think too hard about what you're trading your hours for. Mainlander was a German philosopher who published one book. The day it was published, he used copies of it to stand on and hanged himself. His argument was complete. He had nothing left to add. His central claim? Suffering is not a lesson. Not a test, not a message, not an invitation to grow, not part of a plan, not God's will or the universe's curriculum or karma settling its accounts, just suffering. In a universe that doesn't know you're here, doesn't care that you're hurting, and will continue its vast mechanical processes with complete indifference to whether you survive them. You lost someone. There was no reason. The universe was not trying to teach you something about love or impermanence or the importance of being present. Cells mutated, or a car moved wrong, or a sequence of events no one could have predicted produced an outcome that took someone from you. That's what happened. Not a lesson, an event. You failed. You did everything right or close to it, and the thing didn't work out. There was no cosmic message in that, no character being built. Sometimes you do everything right and the outcome is still wrong because the world is not a morality system, it is a physics system, and physics doesn't grade on effort. You were hurt by someone you trusted. That wasn't the universe building your resilience. That was a person who had their own damage doing what damaged people do. The wound you carry from it is real, but it does not have a purpose. It is not making you stronger, it is making you more careful, which is not the same thing, and sometimes it is making you more closed, which is the opposite of strong. The phrase, "everything happens for a reason," is the most widespread lie in the English language. It is not wisdom. It is panic management. It is the mind, your mind, everyone's mind, unable to tolerate the randomness of a universe that distributes suffering without logic or fairness or any relation to what the recipient deserves. Children are born into violence. Good people die young. Terrible people live long, comfortable lives and are mourned by people who never knew who they were. The rain falls on the just and the unjust without any preference. The cancer doesn't check whether you've been a good person before it divides. The universe is not a classroom. You are not a student. Your suffering is not a curriculum. And the sooner you stop searching for the lesson inside the wound, the sooner you can actually look at the wound, see it for what it is, feel it for what it is, and begin the very unglamorous, very unspiritual process of actually dealing with it. The truth cuts. This is the cut. There is no plan. There never was. You are not here for a reason. The universe produced you the way it produces everything, through blind, impersonal process, and it will unmake you the same way. That is not hopelessness. That is the ground, the real ground. Not the ground you were told to stand on, which was always someone else's story about what your life means. Your actual ground, the one that doesn't shift when the story collapses. Here's where I could give you the sunrise, the pivot towards beauty and gratitude and the small pleasures that make it all worthwhile. I'm not going to. Not because those things don't exist, but because you've been given that pivot your whole life and it hasn't worked, and you know it hasn't worked. And giving it to you again in slightly more sophisticated language is the same comfort food that never actually fed you. What I'll give you instead is this. Every philosopher in this video, Schopenhauer, Cioran, Krishnamurti, Becker, Mainlander, was doing one thing only. They were refusing to look away from the wheel, from the wound, from the machine, from the death, from the silence where God was supposed to be. They didn't find peace. Most of them didn't find happiness. Mainlander found the conclusion of his own argument. Cioran lived to 90 years old and spent 80 of them writing about how terrible it is to be alive. And he kept writing, which tells you something. Schopenhauer was difficult, isolated, cantankerous, and one of the most clear-eyed human beings who ever lived. Becker died the year his book was published, Cancer, at 49, and spent his final months finishing an argument about death that he knew was also about him. None of them had a morning routine that fixed it. None of them found the reframe that made it okay. But they stayed awake. They kept looking. And in that looking, in the refusal to perform comfort they didn't feel, they produced something real. Something that decades and centuries later still hits people directly in the place they've been protecting. Because truth doesn't expire. Comfortable lies do. Truth just waits. Chekhov wrote characters who don't resolve, who love badly and fail quietly and keep going, not because life rewards them for it, but because stopping doesn't help. He didn't write heroes, he wrote people. And in that fidelity to actual people, their smallness, their persistence, their unremarkable courage of just continuing to be present in their own lives, he created something more sustaining than any hero story. Because you're not a hero, you're a person. And the person doesn't need a hero arc. The person needs to know that someone else has seen this clearly and stayed anyway. Not happily, not with peace, but stayed. That's the only thing on offer here. Not hope, not a plan, just someone else has looked directly at this and kept moving, which means you can too. Not because it gets better. Maybe it gets better. Maybe it doesn't. But because the alternative, the numbness, the performance, the lifelong project of looking away from the things that are real, costs more than it saves. It costs you the experience of your own life. You get the shell of it, the schedule, and the resume, and the social media record of it, but not the actual texture of being alive, which only shows up when you're present enough to feel it, which only happens when you're not constantly running from the parts that hurt. Stop lying to yourself. Not as a therapeutic exercise, not as a first step toward healing. Just stop. Right now. With no plan for what comes after. You're not okay. You don't have it figured out. The life you've built is partly a performance, partly an accident, partly the result of decisions made by a younger version of you who didn't know what they were choosing. The things you want are partly not yours, planted by advertising and comparison and the specific damage your childhood did to you. The things you believe about what makes a good life are partly borrowed from people who borrowed them from other people, and nobody stopped to check whether they were true. You are going to die. everyone you love is going to die. The universe doesn't know your name. Suffering is not a curriculum. The system was not built for your flourishing. Now sit with all of that. Don't fix it. Don't reframe it. Don't reach for the phone. Just sit with it and see what's there when you stop running. What's there is you. Smaller than the performance, quieter than the ambition, less certain than the version you show the world, more afraid, more confused, more tired. Also, and this is the part that only becomes visible after everything else burns away, more real than anything you've presented to anyone. That's where it starts. Not with answers, with honesty. Not with hope, with presence. Not with a plan, with the small, radical act of being here. Actually here, not just scheduled to be here, in your own life. The one that's happening right now while you're busy managing the distance between yourself and it. The void is real. You already knew. The question was never whether it's there. The question is whether you're going to keep spending your one life pretending it isn't. If something in this hit you, if you felt it somewhere real, then you're part of a small group of people who actually want to be awake in a world that's constantly offering you the sedative. That's who this channel is for. Not the people looking for affirmations, not the people who want the answer delivered clean and comfortable, the people who can hold the real thing. If you're one of them, stay, subscribe, because we're going to keep going into the places most people avoid, the questions that don't have easy answers, the philosophers nobody assigns in school, the ideas that change the shape of how you see everything. This was Eternal Rift, and we're just getting started into the rift.